Hey everyone, it's Dave from Dave's Ohio Barbecue. On today's episode, we are going to grill a pork tenderloin. Stick around. So one of the problems with grilling a pork tenderloin is that it's not a very fatty cut of meat and it will dry out really quick on the grill. So we're going to do some steps to kind of get around that, and we're also going to add a little mass to the meat because it's such a thin kind of cut of meat that it has an uneven cooking time. If you ever look at a pork tenderloin, it's thick on one end, it's thin on the other. They cook at different rates. By the time the thin end's done, the thick end could still be raw. So we got to kind of work around this. Now, I've taken these methods that I'm using today from different areas, recipes I've read online, trial and error of myself. I even watched America's Test Kitchen. They tend to do pretty cool stuff on there too. So this is kind of like an amalgamation of all these different recipes all put into one. So the first thing you want to do with this pork loin is make sure you remove any of the silver skin that's on there. Just trim it off and get it to be a nice, sleek tenderloin. You don't want to have any of that kind of rubbery membrane still on there. So get it all cleaned up. And what you want to do next is you want to cut the tenderloin into 2 equal parts. What we're going to do is we're going to flip the tenderloin around and we're going to tie it back together so that it makes one big chunk of tenderloin that'll cook evenly instead of having a thin part and a thick part. What you want to do is you want to scratch up the surface on one side of each of the halves and then stick those scratched up surfaces together. That'll help the meat kind of hold together when you tie them together with twine, and it'll also help them cook as one piece of meat. Before you go and do that though, we're going to brine it. We're going to soak this in a solution of salt and water to kind of get a little bit of more moisture and salt into the pork loin itself. So for this brine, what you want to do is you want to have about 1.5 quarts of water and add about 3 to 4 tablespoons of kosher salt to it and mix it up until it dissolves. Take the 2 halves of your pork loin, put it in the bowl with the water, and let it soak for at least 2 hours, but longer, even overnight, would be better. And you want to line it up so that the thin end of the piece you cut is lined up with the thick end of the other piece, so it kind of makes like a big square chunk. You're going to take about 5 pieces of butcher's twine and tie this thing together, so it's just this big log of pork tenderloin. Now there's a lot of recipes out there that use glazes and things like that to get the coating on it. What I prefer to do with my pork tenderloin is I'm actually just going to use the same rub that I use on baby back ribs and things like that. I'll give you the recipe for that below, but I have some of it left over from the last time I smoked some ribs. So I'm just going to sprinkle it liberally on all sides of the pork loin to make sure that it's coated well. Just don't forget the ends as well because they have a lot of surface area on them. And then it's time to take this to the grill. So I'm using my gas grill for this. What you want to do is you want to have 2 different heat zones for it. So I turn 2 of the burners on one side on high to get it nice and hot. The other one I turn to about medium, a little bit below medium to get it at a cooler temperature. We're kind of going to do a reverse sear on this. What you're going to do is you're going to start by cooking the pork loin on the cooler side for about 25 minutes, turning it every so often to get it cooked evenly. You're looking for a temperature in the middle that's about 115 degrees. That's when you know it's time to start searing the outside. Once it gets to that 115 degrees, you're going to bring it on over to the hot side and just really get some char marks on there and get that thing looking nice and crispy. When you're done, take it off the grill, let it sit, let it rest. At least 10 minutes, 20 is probably better. Once it's done resting, just snip the twine. The 2 halves might fall apart, but that's okay. And what you should have is nice, perfectly cooked, even all the way through pork loin. Cut it up into medallions and serve it. It's delicious. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to follow me on social media. Be sure to tell a friend about my channel. And as always, please press that subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching. See you soon.